G'day everyone, how you going? My name's Aura, I hope you're all well. Now in a continuation with the series where we've been looking at the new dungeons of Shadowlands, today we're looking at Mist, so without further ado, we'll jump into it. So for the first boss we have Ingra Malok. Now this boss has two targets, the first being the big plant man called Droman Ulfaran, and the second which is Ingra Malok. For the first phase of the fight, you want to single target down Droman as he is being controlled by Ingra. Once at 20%, Droman will become a friendly target and the group should be able to target Ingra. Now this is important because while Droman is controlled by Ingra, Ingra has an 80% damage reduction, so there is very little point of doing any damage on him at all. So for phase 1, while Droman is controlled, he will cast Bewildering Pollen, which shoots out a cone of damage in front of him, and anyone that is hit is disorientated for 4 seconds. Now I'm fairly certain that this can be dispelled, so if you are quick enough and any one of your party members is unlucky enough to get hit, you can hopefully negate the time that they're down by being able to dispel the disorientate. Now another ability that is cast during the first phase is Tears of the Forest, which shoots out missiles all over the encounter area and it will leave small animal puddles. Now these are quite easy to dodge, but once the puddles are left they become quite annoying for the simple fact that their damage can really add up if people are having to move through them constantly for repositioning. Now Ingra himself casts a few spells that you have to watch for. The group should always be trying to interrupt Repulsive Visage, as this is a 3-second fear to all group members. Now this can become messy and put you quite far behind in the healing, so you want to make sure that you watch for this and let your group know that they need to dispel it, interrupt it as soon as possible. Now another spell that is cast is Spirit Bolt, which is just a hard cast onto a single target that does about medium damage, so it's not too bad, but however do note that they do come out onto group members. And the final mechanic to mention is Ingra's Death Shroud. So this inflicts 600-ish damage every second on all group members, for every second while Droman is being controlled by Ingra. That is why it is imperative for the group to focus down Droman. Obviously as keys get higher and maybe it's at a tyrannical weak, this damage can become quite significant to the entire group. But other than that, it's a pretty simple fight. It just repeats the phases up until you kill him. Now on the way to the second boss, there is a new mechanic in this dungeon which is implemented in the second boss's guessing game. Now I won't go too much into detail with this, but it does set up a precedent for the second boss, Mistcaller. What I will say is that I really do implore you to get the weak aura for the guessing game and for the maze. I did this recently and makes a world of difference. Now this is where most people will fail in a mythic key run if you're sent back by picking the wrong door, as it can take up a lot of time running back and then guessing the correct door again. Now I will link down the Wago link for the weak aura, and if you are yet to get into weak auras, I really suggest you do. There's nothing wrong with making your job easier, and especially when us healers actually have the hardest job in the game. I'm sorry everyone else, but it's just simply true. Now onto the boss. So this is a pretty simple boss, only has a few mechanics, but it can get a bit out of hand quickly if you do them wrong. So the Mistcaller has a few casts to worry about, and then I'll talk about the guessing game. The first ability I'll mention is Dodgeball. So it's pretty simple, dodge the ball. Now we've all seen the movie, and as keys get high, these balls turn into wrenches. So channel your Patches O'Houlihan and dodge the ball. A spell that must be interrupted is Patty Cake. Now this will truck a single player for almost the entire health pole and disorientate them for 5 seconds, so it needs to be done. And the final spell to worry about is Freeze Tag, which is where Mistcaller summons a blue dog to target a player. This ad can be CC'd or even killed. If this dog happens to hit a target, what it will do is a medium amount of damage, but it will also stun anyone within 8 yards of the target for 8 seconds. So make sure no one is getting hit and the ad is being either stunned, CC'd or destroyed. Alrighty, now onto the guessing game. So this phase is very much like the maze, however a weak aura cannot save you now. This comes down to pure skill and keen intellect for finding the correct target as fast as possible and nuking it down. So at 70, 40 and 10% health, Mistcaller will cast a spell called Guessing Game, where she becomes invulnerable to damage and summons 4 separate ads around the encounter space. Each will have a symbol above their head, and you have to pick the odd one out. The factors that are included are the fact that it will either be a leaf or a flower, it will be coloured in or it will be empty, and finally there will be a circle around the image or there will not. Now whilst this is being done, the ads are casting a spell called Penalizing Burst. Get it? Because you're being penalized for not guessing it correctly. Now this only does 395 per cast. However, it places a debuff on everyone, increasing the damage taken by the spell by 15% each cast. So this can quickly get really out of hand if your group guesses incorrectly or spends time killing the wrong ad. Now, if you do kill the wrong ad, the spell will go off that's called Oopsie, aptly named wouldn't you say? Now, this does about 12k damage to all members, and with penalising burst constantly ticking through the phase, this can easily cause a wipe for the group. Now keep in mind throughout this phase that you still have to deal with the blue dogs that are targeting people in the group, so do try and CC them, as you can't afford to spend damage on the dog, or rather you need to be killing the projections. This is the phase where I'd suggest you use your cooldowns, as it can get really rough. Alrighty, so now on to the final boss, who is called Tread Over, or as I like to call her, Big Worm. It's a pretty simple final boss. The worm casts 3 different types of parasitic infections, which are pacification, incapacitation, and domination. All 3 of these abilities should be interrupted, and you need to set up an interrupt rotation in order to manage these correctly. If they do go off, it creates a lot more problems for you healing specifically, as well as the rest of the group having to switch damage onto other targets. So make sure that there is a rotation set up and people are doing their job correctly. Now, an ability to watch in this fight is Mind Link. So the worm will link 3 players together with a large blue line animation. Now this will tick damage every 1 second, and in order to break this, the players have to move 40 yards away from the person that you are tethered to. Now it is a good idea to do this as soon as possible, because extra damage on group members is not needed, as well as you'll need to reposition for following mechanics. Another spell that Worm casts is Accelerated Incubation, which will spawn 4 larvae. These small adds that should be killed off as soon as possible, because the next ability marked Prey sets the larvae onto a random player and they will fixate onto them for the next 20 seconds. So if these adds are not yet dead, make sure you do spot heal the person that is targeted by the adds, as they can become quite hard to heal overall. Make sure to spot heal the person who is targeted by the adds if they have not been killed yet. And finally, there is Acid Explosion. So the worm shoots out missiles of acid. As the fight goes on, the worm gains something called Intelligence. These circles on the ground will start trying to predict where the players will be. And in my experience, this really hasn't been too much of an issue. However, in this phase, do watch for players that are predictable and do get hit, as it does a large burst of damage and they will need to be topped up ASAP. Also, in course, they get hit by another mechanic again soon, maybe causing their death. But other than that, it's a pretty simple dungeon. It's only 3 bosses. The main time suck, especially if we're looking at keys, is that maze section where you do have to deal with the adds, but then also guess all of the doors correctly. Otherwise, you can certainly lose a lot of time in there. But thank you very much for watching, guys. I appreciate it. Like and subscribe if you want to hear about more healing content. I've still got a few more dungeons to do. Follow me on Twitch at twitch.tv/AuraParty. I've been streaming there a lot recently, and stream my Mythic Plus content as well as raids. But thank you very much, and have a good day. Bye.